We are back again. It is a Week 12 slate. Garett, Thomas, do you realize there is not one, not two, but 3 weeks left of the regular season, and then we are in the fantasy football playoffs. So it's do or die time. Of course, we are the DFS Army fantasy football show talking about our favorite flex plays on the week. Hit us up with your start sit questions. It's so important. Garett, how you doing? How's your Thanksgiving, man? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'm happy to be here, man. We're getting the Christmas decorations up. You gotta force the wife. She's a Halloween person, so she gets she gets super into Halloween. Then Christmas comes and she's turned into the Grinch. I'm like, you gotta decorate the house for the I'll help you, of course. You gotta help us decorate the house for Christmas. So we're doing good. Football's good. I took down a single entry tournament DraftKings last week.
Beautiful.
Late swap on to Pollard and to Dallas D. So this is obviously week 11, not the Thanksgiving one. No clue that was going to work out, but I think that combo was like 50 something points on DraftKings. So took that down. It was a good feeling. So I'm feeling good. Hopefully going to finish this season good. If I don't do well in the playoffs, it's always DFS and Degen status. So we can always
so with that, DFSArmy.com. Not sure if you've ever heard of it, Garett. It's a great website. Go check it out, ladies and gentlemen. There's a ton of free content up there. There's articles from myself. There's articles from Garett. There is weekly free tournament strategy lineups. Like, there's so much content out there. And we actually have a promotion right now for our VIP members where all you got to do is just post your winnings at DFS Army on social media. And we're giving away free swag. We're giving away free months memberships. And if you're new to the DFS game, if you're out of it, 3 weeks left in the season, pretty much Thanksgiving is like that Mendoza line where you're either in or you're out of the playoffs. If you're in the hunt, fantastic. That's why we're here. If you're out and you want to try DFS and you're kind of new to the game, DFSArmy.com/free-offer. Follow the instructions and you can get a free month of DFS Army VIP membership. Getting all our content, getting the Shark Chronicles, baby. That's the big one. It's DFS specifically. I think that was DraftKings specific strategy, but it's teaching you guys how to take down tournaments, teaching the people to fish, as it were. But listen, hey, we're not here to talk about DFS. We're here to talk about our season-long leagues. Garett, we got actually a lot of good players. Sometimes it's like you're going through and it's like, this is nasty. This is stinky. This is disgusting. Yeah. And this week we actually have a decent slate of players. So give me your number one flex play on the week, brother.
Yeah, man. I think it's pretty consensus. A lot of people, not consensus, probably not the word, but a lot of people are very high on him. And I think that's the consensus. And that's Samaje Perine for Cincinnati Bengals. He's facing the Tennessee Titans this week. Joe Mixon, the normal starter. He continues to be within the concussion protocol, and he's definitely going to miss this week. He had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, he's totally out. 3 touchdowns last week for Perine against Pittsburgh. That's not something I'm chasing this week. Obviously, the opportunity is better. So I wouldn't chase that kind of upside, but we have seen decent performances in Perine with Mixon involved, and a few times when Mixon's been out and he's been the guy. I can't lie to you, Shane. He's facing a really tough Tennessee run defense. So I do have some hesitancy here to some degree, especially this tight defense against the run is doing well. You got to beat him in the pass, but Perine has shown that he can get things done in the air. So, all 3 touchdowns last week in the air. So he can definitely overcome that. I believe, obviously, the Bengals offense they can overcome any defense if they so choose. So I expect a middling to kind of low-end RB2 performance from Perine with a small chance of upside. But, definitely a guy you can just simply plug and play if you're desperate, especially these 12-team leagues. If he somehow is available in the 12-team, snag him up and absolutely start him as a flex or your second flex. And, for some teams, you got strong wide receivers and one really strong running back. He's a good RB2 in that scenario.
Yeah, I would definitely lean more towards Perine in your half point to full PPR type leagues.
I agree with that.
One of the reasons that Joe Mixon was being drafted definitively in the first round of drafts this year was because of the presence of Samaje Perine in the passing game. Like Joe is clearly a 3-down back, but yet for whatever reason, Cincinnati doesn't love to use him there because the pass blocking.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it last year in the Super Bowl. Listen, this analysis has been beaten to death, but we saw it last year in the Super Bowl where last drive of the game, it wasn't Joe Mixon in the lineup, it was Samaje Perine. Why? Because he's good at pass catching the ball and he's good at pass protection. So how are they going to beat Tennessee? Like, Tennessee's going to want to grind them. They're dead last in the league, Tennessee is, in terms of snaps per game at 51. They want to slow the game down. But Samaje Perine, chances are he's going to get a 3-down role. Chris Evans will have a bit of a role as well. But I think Samaje Perine is probably going to get, 70% of the opportunity share in the running back position. And what adds a little bit of a wrinkle in this is that it sounds like Jamar Chase, well, he's going to be a true game time, but it sounds like he's trying to play, which is great for the Bengals. May take a little bit of luster off Samaje Perine, but listen, man, especially in in DFS contests, I guess he's going to be pretty damn chalky, especially in DraftKings type setups. But listen, you can't really go wrong with the Perine, man. I mean, you could, but
you definitely could. But no, I hear you there. Let's see. I'm looking up his DraftKings price and stuff like that. But no, he's definitely gonna be a guy that it's one of those things. You're gonna be stupid not to play him, and then of course if he fails, it's well, the Titans are really good defense.
Obvious.
Of course, would I play that? So this is a hold your nose kind of matchup scenario, but you trust the volume and the opportunity, and Perine's kind of gotten it done in the past. Not elite. That last week was his best week, but there's been 15-point games from half PPR that he's gotten with Joe Mixon, without Joe Mixon. So
there you go. All right. Before I give you mine, let's talk about Bali. Bali, thanks for joining us, brother. He needs a flex. He's got Curtis Samuel, Elijah Mitchell. I'm assuming that's Elijah Mitchell, Kyron Williams, and Drake London. Half PPR. This one's easy for me, but really it's between Drake and Curtis Samuel, right? Like that's the conversation. So spoiler alert, Bali. We were talking before we went live. I'm like, man, I'm really getting gravitated towards this Washington Atlanta game. Like it's just a game that, like this skill position player, like that skill position player. I'm leaning Drake London here over Curtis Samuel. I think that's the right play simply because consolidated target share. What Washington is actually good at stopping is the run. So you could see maybe, assuming that you actually have some reasonable quarterback play, but I could see Drake London getting some targets, at least north of 25% target share, probably closer to 30% target share. He's going to get a couple red zone looks. I like Drake London, half point, especially. You're banging on that touchdown. That's how I lean. What about you, man?
I'm with the London side, and you heard me. I kind of defended some Curtis Samuel potential usage. So if you are kind of, let's just say between these other three guys, I'm probably going to go Curtis Samuel. Obviously London's in this group of four, and that's going to be the guy, right? Kyle Pitts is gone. I mean, you're going to see consolidated targets, even though it's going to be 3 to 5 targets. That could be a couple goal line scores. That could be this. That could be a little in route that somebody misses a tackle and he takes it to the house. So it'll be interesting.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't overthink it. Look, I still don't trust Curtis Samuel week in, week out based on the usage. And yeah, you can argue Drake London is TD dependent, but at least he's starting to get those targets in the end zone. And no Kyle Pitts. Not that Kyle Pitts was really a huge fantasy factor, but he was somebody that defenses had to account for. And he gone. Okay. We got another one from Andrew saying he's not sure about Perine. Evans and Williams are going to get snaps. Yes. No, you're right. Listen, they're going to get snaps, but who's the most trusted back in this offense right now? It's clearly Samaje Perine, right? Otherwise, Chris Evans would have been eating into the target share to begin, or that opportunity share to begin with. So it's when you look at the top running backs in the game, the Joe Mixons type players, like these guys dominate the opportunity share. But when they're out, yes, obviously it's going to be more of a timeshare. Perine isn't Joe Mixon. But who does the coaching staff trust the most? It's going to be Samaje Perine. And look, it's a flex play. If he was a de facto locked and loaded play, we probably wouldn't be talking about him here. But he's a flex play. He's somebody that, because of the injury, we have to decide, are we starting this guy in our lineup? Do we trust him in our lineup? And both Garett and I say, yeah, I think we can trust him going this week in our lineup. But no, absolutely, Andrew. Listen, Tristan Samaje P. Ryan, what could possibly go wrong? But what could go right, baby? What could go right?
Yeah. And I agree with a lot of that. And, the thing about Williams is, I mean, like, there's not done anything to make me think he's going to take a huge share. Same with Evans, right? I mean, Evans, he's had 1, 3, 5, 5, 4, 1% target shares in the games he's appeared. There's some absolute goose eggs in between there. So, I mean, in DFS, yeah. I mean, is it an opportunity to fade? Sure, right? You got a bad matchup. I think that's where you kind of attack your skepticism, Andrew. But in a season-long scenario, I think that, P. Ryan's going to be a guy that's going to get work. I think it's pretty locked. He gets 8 to 10. I think you're going to get, an upside of anywhere between 15 to 16, 17. So, I mean, if that happens, who knows? So, I mean, 9 to 10 touches, though, that's enough for me to consider a flex play in this kind of game.
Fair enough. All right, Bali, I see your question, but I'm going to get to my first flex play before we get to that. So it's time, brother. It's time. Listen, okay. We got to break this out. Because finally our guy is getting the opportunity to start, and that is Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Garett, it's time. It's time for the dance party, baby. We're getting it.
You got to have the white people.
That's the thing. You have to be careful. You have to be careful with clever editing because the internet can be punishing. So yeah, make sure you always, when it say it's Rachaad White season, not just white season, Rachaad White season. Be very careful, Garett. Okay, be very careful. But listen, okay. So first of all things being equal, if Rachaad White was an average running back, this would be a fantastic matchup going up against Cleveland. Right now, Cleveland ranks 29th worst against running backs. Fantastic. Okay. What I like about Tampa in general is they're starting, it feels like it. They're starting to get their momentum again going into December, which it's Tom Brady's season, baby, in December. And Cleveland team right now, they do not look good. I mean, they were trying to hold their own to see if they could be in contention before Deshaun Watson comes back. It's not going to happen. But the thing I like the most about Rachaad White is just the fact that when you look at his rookie profile, Garett, the man was an elite pass catching running back.
Yeah, he was.
And that's Tom Brady's bread and butter at this stage of his career, frankly, for a long stage. But okay, so first of all, who's he most comparable to? Of course, our favorite data site, playerprofiler.com. It's David Johnson. Okay.
Hopefully,
Rachaad White also in a young David. Again, not the old, crusty, washed up. Thank you, Garett. Like, listen, Brandon comes on the show, and Brandon's always throwing wet blanket takes. Mike's coming on the show, wet blanket takes. I figured for once, at least they're going to get one positive guy. No, you always got to throw a little bit of water on it, but that's fine. Okay. He has an elite college target share with an 18.9%, which is a 98th percentile. In his final season, his senior season, he had 43 receptions for 456 yards, had to his 1,000 rush yards, and he had a total of 15 touchdowns. The man was living out of his car for one stage of his career, and all he's done is worked up. He's been the underdog. He finally he gets drafted in the NFL, and this is the opportunity. Look, I love Leonard Fournette, but he's out. He's not there. And he's getting a little bit old. So I could see right now, Rachaad White, if you have him on your team, you're starting him this week with confidence.
Yes.
With confidence. And I would argue that even if Leonard Fournette comes back, he's going to be a weekly flex play discussion every single week. And listen, we already know, Garett, that the Bucs hate Keyshawn Vaughn. They hate him. He's no good. He's not good. So yes, is Keyshawn Vaughn going to get some touches? Yes, he's going to get some touches. Okay. They're not going to give 100% opportunity to Rachaad White. But man, this is a week. It's time, baby. What do you say?
Yeah, I like, this is locked and loaded for me.
Yes.
This is Andrew was a little skeptical about P. Ryan. This is kind of the opposite of what we were talking about, where this is like you're almost not dumb not to play him, but you're almost dumb not to play him.
Don't be dumb.
So especially in a season-long scenario, I have him in a team. I snatched him up. And I started him over Swift, and I'm starting him over Harris because obviously Harris has not been great, but Harris really saw his snap count really come up, and Jaylen Warren saw a lot of usage go down. So he's trending up, but despite that uptrend, I'm sticking with Rachaad White and the unknown. I had a buddy of mine ask me a question. I think it was obviously Jamal Williams had a decent game. He scored a touchdown, but I think that's kind of where it stopped, if I remember correctly, on Thanksgiving. But there was another guy mixed in there that wasn't anywhere close to Rachaad White. I was choosing Rachaad White in that upside, and that was before Fournette was ruled out. Right? This was they were talking about, oh, this is going to be hot hand, and even then, I was like, all right, I'm still starting him over, those guys, and now he's out. Like, dude, line me up. I'll take some every time.
All right, Bali. This is a good question because it's timely. Would you play P. Ryan over Rachaad White or James Conner? The answer for me is no. No. In that case, you're playing Rachaad White. You're playing James Conner. The matchup is better. I like the player better. The talent is better. Opportunity is better. Everything about Rachaad White is better than Samaje P. Ryan, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
And James Conner, you can't sit at this point, right? I mean,
I agree with that. I was going to say I probably would play Conner over White, but that's literally only because we're over here saying Rachaad White's going to be amazing, going to be this, whereas like Conner's obviously the guy. He's obviously getting more work. They cut, Benjamin. Like that guy is locked in. I started Conner, in fact, over Daniel Jones in my Superflex league this week, kind of sort of, because that's how much usage he's getting compared to even a quarterback that runs. So
yeah. Well, I mean, James Conner going up against the Chargers it's the 28th best matchup. So like you're not sitting James Conner at this point. You're just not going to do it. Yeah. Okay, Bali, before you get Garett, before you get your next one, Bali's got one last question. Defense or Washington defense? This one's interesting. So the Eagles are playing. I believe they're playing. I should know this.
I have not done
Green Bay.
Okay.
Man, I'm very tempted to play the Eagles defense going up against Green Bay right now. Over Washington. Washington looks good. Although, you know what? No, I take it back. I like this game, the Washington game, because I think it's going to be a little bit sloppy. It's going to be high scoring, but there's going to be turnovers, man. And Washington defense, like they're rolling right now. If Washington has a hope of making the playoffs, it's going to be off the backs of their defense. But this is tough. Damn it. This is a tough one.
Here's the breaker right here. In their last 3 games, the Eagles have averaged 7.3 fantasy points per game, and the Commanders obviously had a big week last week. Yeah. They're averaging the second best in that time frame, which is 13 fantasy points per game. You have a very low over under 40.5 points for Washington. For me, I'm chasing the opportunity of turnovers, which is in that Falcons game. I think obviously Green Bay's not been great, but they're playing better, and Rodgers is protecting the ball a little bit better. They're not turning the ball over as much. I think I'm chasing the Washington defense myself.
Yeah, I'm looking at Marcus Mariota has actually done a reasonable job of protecting the ball. He didn't throw an interception last week. Week before that against Carolina, he had 1. He had 2 against. Actually, it looks like the 2 games against Carolina, he had 3 total interceptions. I could see Washington getting him to him though this week. So yeah, you know what? As we've thought about it, this is why we got to go through the process. We got to go through the process. My initial gut was Washington. Let's stick with Washington. You got the data to back it up. Let's roll with it. Okay, we got breathing fantasy football. Literally, I don't know how you literally breathe fantasy football, but any Mike White love. I don't know, in like GPP type tournaments, maybe you want to take a shot. You stack them with Michael Carter and Garrett Wilson, like just some cockamamie type lineup. But to me, I wouldn't trust Mike White. Would you?
Very, very GPP only. Wouldn't put him in a GPP with 1,000 people probably. It's gonna have to be a larger GPP. I mean, he has upside. He's got 5 starts in the last 2 years, and it's one of those starts where he scored 28 points in his game. So I mean, like, things can happen. They have weapons. Corey Davis is back, I believe, this week, and then they have Moore, and they have Garrett Wilson as well. Those are guys.
Wait, hold on. Who? Elijah Moore? Who's that?
Which is I was looking at
legit?
highlighting him, man, but then I saw
Yeah.
the Corey Davis is coming back, and I tapered that. So
The thing too is like the Chicago team has a solid defense. The Chicago defense is actually very, very good. So, oh, I love that Darth Vader helmet, man. I just noticed that. That's sick.
oh, really?
That's so sick, dude. Love
I
it.
appreciate that. I appreciate
Love it. No, I wouldn't play Mike White unless I'm absolutely desperate. I mean, listen, what about like a superflex league, like a 12-person superflex league? Would you consider Mike White?
12-team super league. Would I?
Which means you're starting 24. Starting 24. Is he a top 24 quarterback?
I think in a 12 team, there's a good opportunity that you have a safer player on your bench to start. Like I just said, I mean, mine's a 10-team super flex, and I went Connor over Daniel Jones, and obviously that's my third best running back if that's the case.
Yeah.
So you know, I think I would if I really didn't trust who I had on my bench or could find on waivers. He is a quarterback. He's going to have the ball. You know how that works. So, I mean, it can work out. And the Bears are bad. That's why I could say hold your nose and do it if you really don't see anybody that stands out to you. But it's not my initial, I'm going to play him super flex even. And that's hard to say for a quarterback sometimes. Russell Wilson, I would start over him. Yeah.
Skinny or double sacks, so cheap. I mean, he's definitely cheap. Okay, would you start? So I guess this is a question. Would you start Russell Wilson over White?
Yes, I would.
I would start Russell Wilson over White. I hate it. I hate it.
But I like White could suck and he could just get benched. Like when someone gets announced as a backup quarterback now starting, and he's not the future, like that dude could go in and stink and he just gets pulled. And now they go back to Zach Wilson or Flacco. So I mean, like you don't even have a guarantee that he's going to finish the game. And they need to beat this Bears team. They need to beat them real bad, especially after losing against New England.
I mean, what's interesting is Flacco's going to be the backup. Zach's going to be the healthy scratch this week. So this is like a definite. Do you think that if in presser Zach Wilson said, like, remember when he was asked, did you let your defense down? And he said no. Do you think that if he just said yes, we got to do a better job, whatever, just even if you don't believe it, just say it. Do you think that if he said that, he would have had a better chance of starting this week? Like, this is a piece of humble pie, right?
Yeah, it's definitely in the realm of possibilities. He could have been the starter this week, but it's been bad and
horrendous.
Right, and like he's protect the football a little bit. I really don't remember his line last week, other than he didn't get any passing yards or touchdowns. I remember the turnover part, but I mean, like he's been protecting the football decent.
All you need to know is, so I play. I'm in the Scott Fish Bowl, and hey, made the playoffs. Boom,
nice, dude.
Happy with that, despite my quarterback play, because Zach Wilson, the few times that I've started in this season, I'm pretty sure he's got me negative points every single bloody week. I think he got me negative 2 points last week. So generally speaking, that's not a good performance for a quarterback. Now it's more punishing the rules, but very, 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 very poor. All right, Garrett, we've been chit-chatting enough. Enough of this chit-chat bull crap. Give me your second flex play on the week, brother.
Man, I'm going right back to the well here on Isaiah Pacheco. He continues to play very well. I think last week people kind of missed out on that game. Maybe they saw he had 15 carries a couple weeks ago and he didn't do anything with it, and that was why they didn't want to start him. Maybe they just kind of looked at his fantasy score 2 weeks ago, saw it was bad. But, last week we got back on track a little bit. He had 16 carries last week. I apologize. I think last week it was 15, and the week before it was 16. In those two games, he's averaging 6 yards per carry, guys. That's elite. That's, I think, beyond elite. It's 2-game sample size. So, but it's very strong. And he's looked like he's had juice every time he's gotten the ball this season. We highlighted last week about how he fumbled 2 weeks ago, got the ball. He got the ball again all last week. And I really, really, really obviously love the game script that we're looking at for the Kansas City Chiefs this week. You have the Rams starting a backup quarterback. They're on the road. They're going to go. The big thing about Pacheco is he could go out there, get you 8-10 points because they could blow out the Rams, and he just gets pulled, right? Yeah. Now, I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll get a little bit more than that, hopefully, but there's some blowout potential. So I don't love his upside, if that makes sense. Like, I guess premier upside, like that super, super ceiling week. But I do like him for a touchdown and, obviously probably 20 carries because, like, he got 16 and 15 these last 2 games, and they were a little bit more competitive. It's going to be stinky for the Rams. So I really trust Pacheco. not scared about their defense being the Rams. Start them up, man.
This game is going to be comical, man. So the over-under is 42.5. The Rams implied team total is 13 points. The Chiefs, 29. They're expected to absolutely dominate them. I think what's interesting, though, is that Pacheco hasn't really received a target through the air for like 4 or 5 weeks, which is kind of shocking in that offense, but he's doing a good job. To your point, he's probably going to get 15 to 20 touches this week in the rush game. You're hoping for the touchdown. And we know that he's explosive. So if he breaks off, he has the ability to break off a 30, 40-yard run, get into the end zone, 17-point play in your leagues, and just completely melt slates, especially for where you have to play him. Like, he's not going to be RB1. He's not going to be RB2. He's going to probably be your flex play. If not second flex play. So I think this is as locked and loaded as it gets for this player. The Chiefs have a lot of ways to score points. And that's the only thing that worries me about not just Pacheco, about any of these position players. The only guy who's locked and loaded every single week that we've seen is Travis Kelce, right? God. Everybody else, it sounds like Juju's going to play, which is good. I think that's good for the offense. It's going to put them in scoring position. But yeah, you really want Pacheco to get in the end zone, because getting 15 touches, but only getting like 80 yards on the ground and not getting any opportunity, not even an opportunity through the air to score points, that's going to be a limit on his total ceiling, like you've noted. But man, if there was ever a week to start Pacheco, it's going to be this week.
Yeah, standard leagues, I'm very strong on him compared to any type of PPR. He's gotten 3 targets all year, so he just doesn't get looked at. And obviously, McKinnon's the guy in that regard, and CEH was part of that run early in the year.
CEH,
what a weird
clown show.
We talked about it. I remember you looked at me like I had 3 heads. This is before Kareem Hunt didn't get traded, and I traded Tyler Lockett and CEH just for Kareem Hunt, and you were like, "That's it?" And I'm like, "Dude, I shopped. Like, that was the best I got." And I kind of looked at back that trade. I lost it because Hunt didn't get traded, but I mean, you still get an injury and win that trade. So I mean, CEH, that kid already dropped him. So I mean, like, it's just wild. That dude was so good, and he's gone. So
I got a question for you. This is totally out of left field, but I'm just kind of thinking about with the trade conversations.
Yeah,
where would you rank Latavius Murray? Now, Mike Boone is eligible to come off IR next week, so he could potentially be a wrinkle in that backfield, right? But right now, Latavius Murray is the guy in Denver. Where would you rank him rest of the season? All things being equal, 65% opportunity share over Mike Boone. RB2, low end RB2, probably. It sounds about right.
I'm there. Definitely RB2 range. I think before seeing Boone's usage, I would keep him in that low end RB2, right? Because like Denver's, I mean, Jamal Williams has scored more touchdowns than the Denver Broncos. Like,
shocking.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not good. And there's a chance this dude gets fired, their head coach, and it's his first year. He's already given up play calling duties. Do you know how bad you have to be in your first year as a head coach to give up play calling duties? Read the room, dude. Like, that dude's in trouble, in my opinion. So all that to say the Broncos stink. A timeshare there stinks, but him getting 65% and Boone just kind of working in, I'm okay with that. Yeah, RB2, low end, and pray to God that you don't have to start him, and he'll go off on your bench and you'll be mad. So
we got some very stinky cheese coming out of Breathing Fantasy Football. I've seen that Marlon Mack's going to get some working at the Panthers. He is, but keep in mind, Marlon Mack has struggled to make practice squads all season. So clearly there's not a lot left in that gas tank for Marlon Mack. But yeah, I mean, he'll probably get a couple opportunities. I wouldn't play Marlon Mack even at min price. To me, he's just like, if he gets a touchdown, he's going to score you 8 points. And okay, fantastic. It's going to be a great points per cost. But the thing people forget about these cheap value players is they still need to score 12, 13, 14 points for you to actually have an opportunity to win in those tournaments. I don't care how cheap those players are. So I'm not a DFS expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know that these guys got to play and they got to score. And so Marlon Mack, listen, just saying, I'm not okay. I agree. Okay. He's not touting him. He's just saying it's an option. Yeah. It's worth discussing.
It's in showdown play. Oh, I mean, showdown play. I mean, you're talking about silly for the millie. Even then, If he's your
I like
MVP,
that.
like you're throwing in a flex or something like that,
Yeah.
like I can get on board with that because sometimes that creates some salary savings, and especially obviously playing him in the MVP and like a milli maker or something like that. But even in a showdown though, I don't think I could put him in a cash lineup or a single entry lineup for showdown.
Okay. We've talked way too much about Marlon Mack already. Let's move on.
That's
All
true.
Right. Okay. Excuse me. So this player that I'm going to talk about, he should be a locked and loaded starter every single week, but he's been up and down enough throughout the season that it's worth discussing. And listen, I'm just going to cop out right now. I got a few other players, but I want to talk about one of my favorite players in the NFL, and his name is Terry McLaurin. He plays for the Washington Commanders. Not sure if you've heard of him, Garrett. He's starting to come back on the fantasy football radar. A couple things that actually shocked me personally. So first off, I think one of the most shocking stats of the week that I saw is that Washington's actually number 2 in the league in terms of snaps per game. Now, I'm not diving into the quality of the snaps, but they're number 2 at 67, which means they're going to want to run the ball, and Atlanta's kind of middling, okay? But Terry McLaurin, as a whole, he's number 2 in the league, Garrett, in terms of route runs per game at 34 per game. He's number 6 in air yards on the season, 1,072, around 97 per game. Now, the problem is he's also number 3 in unrealized air yards with 544, which basically means that half of his air yards are just going into the dirt. So that doesn't help. That's obviously a testament of Taylor Heinicke not being very good. But Atlanta's also giving up 41 PPR points per week to the wide receiver position, which is number 2 in the league. Okay. To the outside wide receiver, which is where Terry McLaurin plays, close to 86% of the time, they're giving up also number 2 with 25.6 points. Terry McLaurin is going to put up points this week. Locked and loaded. I actually, again, from a skill position perspective, I kind of like this game, this Washington-Atlanta game. It's got a 40-point over-under. I would lean the over on this game. Now, of course, what could possibly go wrong with these two somewhat anemic offenses, but I like Terry McLaurin a lot this week. What do you think? Is it too much of a cop-out? Is it too obvious that Terry McLaurin's play this week, Garrett?
I don't think so. I mean, McLaurin's been a guy that like you drafted, and like I don't really think you've played him. It's been hard. Like you could throw him in looking at, and especially in the PPR, right? He's been flex worthy, 13, 12, 17, 3 points here in week 4, 12, 7 points. And what I'm saying? So he's going to get you double digits. I think a lot of people maybe kind of got off the train or reconsidered it because in Houston, he only scored 9 points. That's rough. You thought that was going to be a little bit better probably, but I know Geek has said it till his face is blue. You don't have to throw the ball against Houston to beat them. They're just bad. And so people don't do it. They just run on them. And, he had a great week against Philly, against a very good defense at Philly. I think it's worth mentioning for sure. He's a guy that, if you've got like Jamar Chase, if he starts, right, and then you on top of that have somebody like St. Brown who already played, what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't mind putting in Terry McLaurin as my flex in that situation, or obviously Chase, if he plays, I'm playing, but like if they report he's going to be limited and snap count, things like that, I am going to put Terry McLaurin in over Chase. So that's kind of a good where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people are there with that kind of thought with McLaurin. When they're going to start him, but they're not in love with him. I'm in love with him a little bit this week. I think he's got a touchdown in him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so according to our projections over at dfsarmy.com, my favorite tool is the matchup tool, but I'm looking at his DK points, 14.4 implied points for Terry McLaurin. So I suggest he's probably going to get in the end zone. He's, I would say, minimum 6-7 receptions. Like this is going to be a good game. And we know that he seems to have better chemistry with Taylor Heinicke than he did with Mr. Wentz. So it sounds like Washington is going to stick with Heinicke through the rest of the season, right? Even if Wentz is able to come back, like they're going to stick with Heinicke.
That's correct. That's
interesting. Well. That's very interesting. That's good. That's good for the skill position players. Man, breathing fantasy football, man. I haven't seen you on here before, but you got to come more often. You're cracking me up in the chat here, but we appreciate it. All right, brother, give me one more.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna tell you. We're talking about more guys that kind of disappointed and maybe are starting to come around. And this is another guy, and that's Traylon Burks.
Mm.
Might be a week early. I won't lie to you. Now,
or a week late.
Now, I would argue last week was kind of tough, right? To get 19 points out of him in a full PPR, which he got. He had a 50% snap share, he had 56% the week prior when he came off of injury, so he actually regressed in snap count. Now, what's kind of the wild card there, in my opinion? It's the Thursday night game from that first week back to his second game. So it was a short week. They played at Green Bay. I think they wanted to limit him in that Thursday night game. Now, I say all that because this week the Tennessee Titans have had the mini bye week, right? And that comes after that Thursday night.
Yep.
So to me, it makes sense for Burks to see more snaps after getting extra rest. This offense and really, frankly, Ryan Tannehill are both seeing the need for any type of good wide receiver, elite wide receiver at that. And Burks is clearly the best option on this roster to even come close to sniffing elite wide receiver status this year. And I'm not saying he's going to be elite this year, but Burks was supposed to be the AJ Brown replacement, and week 12 to me is going to be an opportunity for him to show the NFL community, the fantasy community, that he is worth the hype that really got him drafted as the replacement of AJ Brown. But I'm definitely starting him. I know, let me see if I can pull up my other fantasy team where I actually kind of had a start to sit decision myself. Let's see. I'm playing him over DJ Moore and Brandon Cooks.
That's right. I actually have an exact same decision in the league. I'm doing the exact same thing. Both those guys. You can't play DJ Moore right now. You just cannot. He's abysmal.
Sam Darnold's.
It's bad. It's bad in Carolina right now, man. It's just you can't start any Carolina Panthers right now with any sort of confidence, anyways. And Brandon Cooks, man, listen, I wouldn't say, if you look at him playing, I wouldn't say he's lost a step. He just doesn't give a shit this season. It's a give a shit factor. And that goes a long way in the NFL, where he's taken, I wouldn't say, I don't know. I don't want to disparage Brandon Cooks. I think he's a really good player, but he's so unhappy in Houston right now. And it's showing. He's just not a reliable fantasy option either. Are you ready to make your money today on the show, Garrett?
I'm a degenerate, so anytime I can make money, man, let me know.
Well, this is how you're gonna earn your money this week. Are you playing Rachaad White or T. Higgins in your flex? It's to me, there's an obvious one here. Not obvious, but I cannot sit T. Higgins right now. I won't sit T. Higgins. I'm starting him no matter what. Jamar Chase, I think if he does play, it's a hip injury. That is going to impact his lateral movement. I don't know if any of you guys have had hip injuries before, but it's not fun. It's painful. I'm leaning T. Higgins, man. He had a 35% target share last week. He's just an absolute dog out there. He's looking good. I can't sit T. Higgins. Now my question to you, Cruz, is what are your other options? Because, I mean, who are you starting at wide receiver? Who are you starting at running back right now? You must have a pretty stacked team if T. Higgins is a flex conversation player. Like, that's pretty sick, dude.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that one? Rachaad White over Higgins, or Higgins over Rachaad White?
I have in my little pea brain a little resistance to automatically, like, obviously if Chase is out, I mean, no, you're starting Higgins. I think in a full PPR, you're starting Higgins, no brainer. I think half PPR is when it's like, okay, well, maybe you can start considering not over White. I think the optimal choice is going to be Higgins, personally.
Cruz, if you're still listening, which hopefully you are, because we're answering your question, let us know in the chat who are you starting over these players, because I mean, T is locked and loaded to me. Even if Jamar's in this week, you're playing T. And Rachaad White, man, there's not a lot of running backs left on the slate that I'm gonna start over Rachaad White.
So this is kind of where the full PPR argument really gets tough for me. And Rachaad White's going to be, I mean, based on our projections, it's 17 points in full PPR. That's a median projection. So obviously, it could go up or down from there. But, me saying it's a median projection, the odds or the upside is interesting to me. Now, let me see where Higgins is at.
Yeah,
Higgins is underneath that at 16 points. So, I mean, our projections are saying that White's the play. I would say that White's the play if you're one to take on more risk. That would be the way I would finish this kind of debate. Higgins is a safer play.
We got our boy Brandon D. Adam kicking it up. He's been sick all week. He couldn't talk for a little while, so I wanted to have him on the show just to embarrass him a little bit. But glad you. Okay, he's starting T. Okay, oh, good lord, he's got CD and Hill at wide receiver and ETN and Pollard at running back. So, would you consider starting Rachaad White over Travis Etienne?
I would have started him on Pollard, even on that. The short week, I would. I
mean, Pollard's already played, right?
Right, I agree. I would have backed out and I would have played him over Pollard. So
yeah,
I don't think I'd play him over ETN. Just to kind of final answer on you.
It's just getting too cute. You think?
I think it's not. It's. We've just seen a lot of duds out of the Broncos. I'm sorry, not the Broncos, the Bucks. And we've seen some duds against the Jags. But one thing is certain is ETN's getting usage. He's getting a ton of it, and you wish he's getting more passes, and that's the downside of ETN lately.
I guess really the way to simplify it is if we think Rachaad White is what Travis Etienne is.
Yes.
We're projecting Rachaad White to be what Travis Etienne is. So Etienne is a much safer play. So you're right. That's the right process. I mean, sometimes we get enamored with these players, especially guys like Rachaad White, who we've been high, especially for dynasty players, we've been high on all season. I mean, like in a lot of my dynasty leagues, I chose Rachaad White over Dameon Pierce, and that's looking like it's hurting right now. At the time, it felt like the right decision. But okay. We spent a lot of time on this question, but I think I'm going to go with T. Higgins over Rachaad White. Our tools in full PPR are projecting one more point for Rachaad White. I just trust T. Higgins because he's done it, right? I mean, we're projecting with Rachaad White. With T. Higgins, he's done it. If Jamar Chase is expected to be limited or if he's out, then it's locked and loaded T. But honestly, it's a coin flip. I'm okay with both, but I still lean Higgins.
Yeah, I'm okay with the risk. You're willing to take it, but I am going to go Higgins just out of that's not a narrative. That's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I think it's on me. Yeah. My third flex play.
I think so. We had Burks as our last touchdown player from us.
So we're running short on time here. So I'm going to just talk about Paris Campbell going up against Pittsburgh on Monday night. Yeah, I know it's not a sexy matchup, but listen, my original flex play was Antonio Gibson, but Garett said, listen, Shane, you got to talk about somebody other than that, a player not in that freaking game. So I like Antonio Gibson this week. Let it be said, but my flex play officially is Paris Campbell. So when we're chalking it up to see how we do this next week, it's going to be Paris Campbell. He's a different player with Matt Ryan. He's simply a different player. And we saw it a couple weeks ago. He put up 20 points. He finished as a wide receiver 11 against Las Vegas. Las Vegas sucks, so good for that. Even last week, going up against Philly, he finished as a wide receiver 3 with 11 point PPR points. So he's got a pretty safe floor. And Pittsburgh is 8th worst against the slot, which is where we know Paris Campbell likes to hail. So, one, I love the Monday Night Hammer. It's one of my favorite things. I love being the team with the players in the Monday Night game. And even though it's a low over-under game, he's become pretty reliable. He's become very, very trusted, especially in full PPR leagues. He's going to get you a very, very safe floor of 11 to 12 points. He's got that massive upside. We're finally starting to see who we thought Paris Campbell could be with just a healthy season, Garett. So I love Paris Campbell this week, man. I'm playing him wherever I can. Now, again, start-sit decisions. Paris Campbell's probably pretty low on your depth chart, which is a great thing to have. But I like Paris Campbell this week, man. What do you think?
I do too. I don't blame you a bit for feeling that way. Paris Campbell was on FanDuel. He was in my high-stakes single-entry lineup. That's kind of how I felt about him against Philly. Pittsburgh's lesser team, both in secondary and on defense as a whole, and totally so on offense. So he's definitely in play. I'm not forcing him in any season-long things. Obviously I'll be interested in him on DFS again because I don't think he really did enough to move his price too much. But It's definitely worth highlighting him, and it's a guy you can find. He's only on 59% of rosters in sleeper, so it's a guy you can find in some deeper leagues potentially as well.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that he's got a pretty similar target share to Michael Pittman. Last week he had a 19%. Michael Pittman had a 21%. So Pittman, early on in the season, he was the de facto dog in that offense. But with Paris Campbell taking a step up, I mean, really, I like Paris Campbell over Alec Pierce.
Yes.
This week, especially in PPR type leagues, Alec Pierce was looking good, but he was looking good not with Matt Ryan. So with Matt Ryan back in the fold, it's Paris Campbell, it's Michael Pittman, and it's Jonathan Taylor, and that's pretty much it in this offense. So, yeah, Paris Campbell, say Shirley. Okay, brother, we're running short on time here, so give me some of your quick, deeper flex plays, or just guys you want to talk quickly. Just note saying you'd like their matchups this week.
Yeah, this week it's tough in the really deep depths of these rankings because it was tough for me to. I mean, we talked about it. It's tough for me to really point and be like, hey, this is a deep guy that I'm even interested in. Nevertheless, trust. So I definitely don't trust any of the player. I say one player I'm going to mention, but I'm going to bring up James Robinson for the Jets. Okay. I mean, it's one of those deals where the Bears are either going to have Justin Fields and be stupid about it, in my opinion, or they're not going to play him and be smart about it. So even if they're stupid about it, he's not going to be who he was. And, let's think about Kyler Murray. Let's think about some of these running quarterbacks who get hurt. They don't run right as much, especially in the shoulder. Like you got to take, shoulder is one of the biggest places you're going to take a hit as a runner. So all that to say, I don't think the Bears will be able to keep up with this defense, the Jets defense. I think the Jets defense rolls. That's my top play. Before Fields has been rolled out, I've grabbed them in every single DFS. I'm sorry, season-long league that I could without, burning a waiver priority, anything like that. But grabbed them up. I think this defense is going to do good. I think that translates potentially to James Robinson doing good. He's been involved since suiting up, but there's no real way to know how much the Jets are actually going to utilize him. But he's got some usage enough to warrant, if you're down to a 12-team double flex league, something like that, and he's your last man in, like you could have better or worse options, I should say. But the Jets are just facing a really bad Bears team, and I just have a lot of confidence in the Jets defense. Obviously, the new quarterback, new life breathed into this offense potentially. James Robinson's he's a dog, and he can get people fired up, and they need to be fired up right now. They need to rally around something because they're doing good, but the Jets doing good, but they want to win, and losing to the Patriots twice that hurt a lot. So James Robinson, hold your nose, think about it.
Yeah, man. And listen, when you close your eyes and you try to picture how this game is going to go, if you like the idea that one, they're probably going to lean on the run a little bit more because Mike White, this is his first game of the season. I like Mike White. I think he's actually a very respectable backup quarterback. So he's decent. He can, he's a backup quarterback, but he knows how to manage an offense. But the way that you support these guys is in a run game. And especially, I mean, right now there's an implied total that the Jets are going to be up by 6. They're the 6-point favorites in this game, which means they're going to lean on their running back, Michael Carter. Love him, but he's more of a pass catching player.
Yep.
James Robinson, I could see him getting in the end zone this week, assuming that the Jets can actually move the ball, which they trust Mike White can do that. Chicago is what they're good at is defense. They're actually reasonable defense, but against the run, they suck. They're 27th ranked. It's a lot of green going up against for the Jets running backs. I like that, man. James Robinson, I like him as a deep flex play. Some of my deep flex plays, Marquise Brown, if you have him,
I looked at this.
It's kind of risky, but if
this is the week though, it's this gross down here. Yeah, like I looked at this,
it's kind of nasty, but Hollywood Brown, I think you want to start him. Even Dortch the Torch, man, the human Dortch, as he's being called nowadays. He's been dealing with the thumb issue. He hasn't practiced all week, but it's a thumb. So if he's able to go, I like the fact that they trust that he's going to be able to secure the ball. Yeah. It has nothing to do with his lower body, which means he's wiggly. We know this. And when Rondell Moore is out, Greg Dortch was a viable flex play in fantasy football. So Greg Dortch, I like this week. Some deeper flex plays. Matt Collins going up against Seattle. I don't love it. It seems very, very risky. But last week he did receive 9 targets. And listen, like it's him and it's Devontae Adams and it's Josh Jacobs. Again, consolidated target share, which we like. If you're flexing or if you're streaming tight end this week, Gerald Everett going up against the Cardinals has a very good matchup. It's a number 30 matchup. He was a late scratch last week, which kind of sucked. But Gerald Everett, if he's available out there and you're desperate at tight end, I think he's a very viable streaming option. So that's it, man. That's it for the week. We only have 2 more episodes left for these flex plays, man. It's crazy. The season has flown by. Hey, Garett, are you into Dynasty, man?
I don't have a dynasty team. I've thought about trying. I feel like listen. No one's approached me with a good league opportunity, and then I don't have the bandwidth. I run 2 leagues right now, so I don't have the bandwidth to take that on this year. I'm interested. Keep me informed if you hear something.
Just saying, come December for me, like as we're in playoff season, that's really where my brain starts to shift to the dynasty game, where I like to start researching these rookies. During the season, there's so much going on. It's hard to really pay attention to the college game, but we're going to start digging into this dynasty game. So as we enter the end of the regular season for our fantasy football leagues, we're going to start transitioning to dynasty season, and maybe we're going to have to get Garett involved in a league or 2. But there we go. All right, that's it, brother. That's it, brother. So thank you so much again for jumping on the show. Fantastic job as usual. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. Go check us out on Twitter at DFS Army, at the Flex Network 1. If you want to chat with me, at Garett Thomas. 3 T's in the middle. Very complicated.
1 R, 3 T's. Yeah. Like I made sure to make you guys work. So.
And where all the magic happens, dfsarmy.com. So thank you so much for joining in. For Garett, I'm Flex Shane, and we are the DFS Army Fantasy Football Show. Good week. Good luck.
Yes.
In week 12. I almost messed that one up, brother. Peace.
Every time, knowing that.